Hey kids, today I'm showing a budget option for training your own models to use in Stable Diffusion, and this can be your artwork. I'm using 3D renders from Character Creator and iClone, but it could also be selfies, your family and pets, your photography, your product designs. It can even be architecture or renders of your game models. I've even heard of people training models based on their UX design layouts. I think your mileage is going to vary depending on your subject and how open you are to Stable Diffusion interpreting your images. It's a very inexact science, sometimes a little frustrating and obfuscated, but you won't really know what you're going to get and what works until you try and experiment a little bit. Now, I'm not trying to be a wet blanket, but there's a lot of hyperbole and magical thinking in AI discussions. On this channel, I do not post vaporware for clicks. I stick to products that actually exist, number one, and for the most part, products I personally use and recommend. So this one is something that I use personally, I recommend. If you're experienced with Dreambooth training, you don't need me to explain how this works. Go to DreamLook AI and see if it meets your needs. I'm not an ambassador. I get nothing from this. I don't monetize my channel. The info in this video is accurate for the end of May 2023, but of course prices and services may change in the future. It's always good to shop around. Now, if you're new to training models on your own images, I'll explain quickly and lightly how this works to demystify the process. And in a few minutes, I'll just show you the website and a straight up step-by-step tutorial for using the no-frills Dreambooth cloud service called DreamLook AI. It's cheap, it's very easy, it's straightforward, not a lot of nonsense. There's even an API, so potentially this could be hooked into your own app or cloud service. Hey, who knows, maybe you can get rich finding the next niche for Dreambooth selfie apps. I think that ship has sailed, but mostly this is for you using your own artwork in AI. Now, Dreambooths can be trained for free at home if you have the hardware, specifically a PC with a beefy graphics card. Let's face it, AI image generation is rich man's hobby. I use Stable Diffusion on Mac. It's an app called Draw Things. It's for Apple Silicon. It's free. I did a video a week or two ago. Check that out if you are on a Mac or iOS. Long story short, there's no Dreambooth training for Mac. You can't create your own models, not even a LoRa. It's not that big of a deal. There are cloud services online that do model training on high-end GPU, other people's computers, for a few dollars per hour. The catch with those services is that you usually need a monthly subscription. Now, two popular options are Google Colab and the website Run Diffusion. My problem with Google Colab is very wonky. You need a tutorial for basically opening a notebook. My problem with Run Diffusion is on top of the Dreambooth training fees, which is it's not much, it's a few dollars. But you have to pay a monthly subscription, $36 a month. That's $432 a year, people, for open source software and some cloud storage. That is not for me. So I'm sharing this website with you. Now, just a quick explainer for anyone who is a little overwhelmed. Stable Diffusion is the underlying AI that converts your text into images. It's open source, so there are a lot of free add-ons and plugins. Mostly you've heard of the interfaces like Diffusion B, Automatic 1111. Those are just the interfaces. The real beef is the trained model. That's where some rich person rented hundreds of hours on powerful servers to correlate all the training images with the words that were used to caption them online. That's how AI text-to-image works. Now, the result is a big kind of database of these concepts of words and images that you can download and connect to Stable Diffusion. Now, these models are huge, usually around 5 to 7 gigabytes. That's all the original training data. When we write a text prompt in Stable Diffusion, you're not retraining the AI, you're basically just poking that existing trained model to get an output. And training a new model, like on your own artwork, that would take a lot of time and money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, to create a new model from scratch. Dreambooth is a relatively easy way to add your own images to an existing model. It's creating a new standalone model, but it doesn't take as long and it doesn't require as much money since most of the data is already there in the original model. Now, basically, you have an existing Stable Diffusion model, you add your own images on top, and you'll need like 15 to 200 images for this. And you use this new model just like any other Stable Diffusion model. You download it from the internet, you install it in your version of Stable Diffusion, except this model has learned a new word that it associates with the content from your images, whatever they were. So what I'm showing you today is very easy and cheap. It's basically a wholesale solution for training your own Checkpoint Dreambooth models. You know, you're talking to a New Yorker when she finds the wholesale to public dealer for Dreambooth. We don't have a lot of time for nonsense, and we don't pay retail. Now, as a bonus, you can also download the LoRa version of the same model for free. Well, you know, each training is under $1, so it's not free, but it's free with the training. And now a LoRa is basically that same model that you just trained, but the old original model is subtracted from the data. So rather than downloading 2 gig standalone model, a LoRa is like just the difference. It's a 35 megabyte-ish, and it's just the new information. It's not standalone. You have to pair it with that original model, which is probably already on your hard drive installed in Stable Diffusion. Now, LoRa's are okay. There's some situations where they're more convenient, but my experience is that they're not as good at recreating your content, and not as accurate. You're better off with a full Dreambooth model. Now, DreamLook is using the same process to make your Dreambooth and LoRa that everyone else uses. The quality is the same, it's just no frills and basically automated. There's no monthly subscription and no storage. In fact, if you don't download your models, they get deleted in 48 hours. They do not save your models or photos. So if you, after a couple of days, they're gone. You have to download them. So let's do this. The website is DreamLook AI. And just a few caveats, they only train for Stable Diffusion 1.5 and only at 512 by 512 resolution. If you upload larger images, they will be cropped or rescaled down to 512 by 512. Now, the biggest advantage here is the speed. I am training a few dozen images in under 10 minutes, give or take a few minutes. The website is ridiculously easy to use because it's just the important bits. Just drag your square images to this window. I did not downsize these images. I think they're 2K squares. So the website is rescaling them down to 512 by 512. As you can see, I'm using almost exclusively close-ups of the face because I'm going to let the AI fill in the bodies and the clothing and the rest of the hair. Now, there's only a few options, and thankfully they don't have ridiculous names like pickles and epochs and eons and millennia or galaxians. And sometimes I think AI is aimed at very silly people who are easily impressed by words that sound magical, just so nerds can tribe signal in geeky jargon to other nerds. And of course they sound like idiots, and it seems deliberately designed to obfuscate how the sausage is made and make it seem more magical than it is. It's not that deep, people. It's just training. Okay, so this website recommends 100 training steps per image. Got that? Some simple 3rd grade math. I got 15 images times 100 training steps is 1,500 training steps in total. But but my characters are kind of specific. I want them to always look like very specifically these characters, at least their faces. Even when I'm generating with a stylized model, I want to be able to recognize my characters. So I do 150 steps per image. Now this next setting is the learning rate, and it sounds very mathematical and intimidating, so I did some research. And I never found a satisfactory answer what this specific learning rate is doing. So finally, I just tried setting different values on my own just to see, and it doesn't really do anything. It does something, but it doesn't do anything important, at least nothing you can describe in words. It just seems to shift the renders slightly, like everything else in AI, and the differences are just not much. So I recommend you leave this setting at default. It's not worth spending extra money experimenting. It's not really any difference. Now, however, the training steps have a noticeable impact. So they say 100 steps, I say 150. You do what you want. Next is the instance prompt, and this is the important part where you're going to give your model a prompt word. Now, they filled in default with UKJ person. That UKJ stands for unknown. I don't know where the J comes from. It's not a real word. That's the point. They just made up sort of a gibberish word that the AI could not confuse with anything that it already knows. So this is the word, this UKJ. You're going to replace this word with something unique and specific for your model. And you need to remember it because you're going to have to use it to prompt. I use the @ symbol and followed by the name of my character with no spaces. When I'm in Stable Diffusion, I will prompt for my character on this model by using @ symbol followed by their name. And next we need to say what it is in the image that we're training, in this case, a man. Give your models a gender when appropriate. If they're adults, give them a man or a woman. If they're a child, say boy or a girl. It's just going to make prompting a body and hair and accessories a lot easier on this character. Now, I tried some more specific descriptions here, and it's a little tricky. If you are simultaneously telling the AI what is the important object in your image that it needs to learn, but it's also attaching everything it knows about that word to the subject. And if you're too specific, that can backfire and you actually remove the description from the image. So if you over describe, you're actually going to end up with nothing in your training. Long story short, keep it very simple. 1 or 2 words max, and generic, broadly generic is best. Now, I haven't tried training any styles or inanimate objects, but you would just use blah, 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 your trigger word, style, or blah, blah, your prompt word, object. And if you got a pet, you might do blah, blah, dog, or blah, blah, cat, or hamster, whatever it is. It's just going to help the AI put the right accessories with your model. Now we get to choose a base model, and there are some custom models here. For a while I was sticking with vanilla Stable Diffusion 1.5, which was fine, it worked well. But I also like Protogen. This is the one that you've been seeing in this video. It kind of helps fix my 3D figures into looking more like realistic humans. Now, if you're uploading photos of realistic humans, you might want to pick one of the more stylized models, like maybe an anime model or a Studio Ghibli kind of looking model. There's no information here about what these models are trained on. You'll have to look them up on Civet AI or Hugging Face to see, what their specialization is. There's no Stable Diffusion 2 or 2.1. I asked about that on their Discord, and they told me, nope. Nope. They were not adding the newer version. They said nobody wants it. Okay. So Stable Diffusion 1.5, that's what you get. Uh, the last thing that you want to check is safe tensors. I turn it on for draw things. I think it's also correct to turn on safe tensors for automatic 1111. But what you should do is you should check with your interface to see which is more compatible. Are you using the safe tensors or not? This callback URL is for automation. DreamLook will ping this URL when it's done. But they also send you an email, and honestly, it's just a few minutes, so I just leave the website open while it's doing it. Now, your models are only up for 2 days, 48 hours. After that, they're deleted and gone forever. I turn on the expert mode up here at the top, and that gives us some advanced settings. Like, we can extract the LoRa, and yes, extract the LoRa. Why not? It's free. And it's under 40 megs, so sometimes, like I said, the LoRa is a little easier to use with a stylized model, and it's small enough to store. I can store them on my iPhone and use them with draw things there. But honestly, I get more consistent results with the checkpoint models. Now, offset noise is the option if your images are especially dark or especially bright, and you'd like to keep them that way. In other words, moody and artistic. Without offset noise, the models do that stable diffusion thing where all the edges seem to always have a high contrast boundary. Like dark objects will be on a light background, light objects will be on a dark background, and the overall kind of histogram of the image will kind of average out. That's with no offset noise. I use offset noise because it's a little more photographic, and I really think it's about your images and what you're trying to train. Now, the last option here is about captions, and this is like the instance prompt, but specific to each image. You can make a longer text caption to remove like weird background objects or extra objects that are accidentally getting trained into your model, things like earrings or glass, I don't know. You'll need to look at the docs for that, and basically you write a JSON file with a list of all of your images and their captions formatted in a specific way. I do recommend that you read the docs because they're pretty fast and bare bones, but they are helpful, easy to understand. And again, if you're new to Dreambooth training, the docs are just, they help. There's no mystery. You don't need to overthink this. This is just step by step, and then download this into Stable Diffusion. Now, obviously, the proof of the quality is in your final renders, and that has a lot to do with how you use Stable Diffusion, your prompts, your specific needs, and what you're trying to achieve. And of course, your image quality is going to depend a lot on the quality of your training data. So garbage in, garbage out. Use well-lit photos and photos where the lighting changes. Use photos where the backgrounds change and your subject is clear and centered. If you're doing faces, make sure that you include landmarks of your face, like eyebrows, eyes, mouth, and chin. You're going to need that in like every photo so that the AI gets a good idea of how your head is supposed to work. Now, all that's left is to hit the training button, and in 5 to 10 minutes, you are ready to download. I'm not actually going to do it this time because I've done it already. But I will show you some of the times on my previous training. You can see I have some here that are pretty fast, like 5, 6, 7 minutes, and some a little longer, maybe 13 minutes was maybe the longest that I had to wait. Now you're going to get your checkpoint model is going to be about 2 gigabytes to download, and your LoRa is going to be about 35 megabytes, and what you end up with is a link. And chances are your Stable Diffusion has a way to download models and LoRa's directly right into Stable Diffusion. Otherwise, you're downloading it onto a hard drive and saving it for later. Like I said, don't leave it on DreamLook because it won't be there after a couple of days. All right, so I recommend DreamLook because it's no nonsense, it's convenient, it's cheap. There's no fussing with a community or a cutesy AI or an expensive monthly subscription. None of that crap. That's it. That's it. Just do this. They're about $1 a piece, actually a little less because you have to spend like $5 to get 6, or $25 to get 30. So each training works out to be a little less than $1. And you're not locked into any version of Stable Diffusion. This is just yours to use in any Stable Diffusion that you have. You can even share it online, I suppose. Hopefully you have the rights to the images. Now that's it. That's it. Go to town. Make your own AI trained models. Do interpretations of your own artwork. If I am trying to get my models so that they look good for my graphic novel, and I think I'm almost there. Thanks to DreamLook. And I hope you enjoy it. Now, if you learned something, if you had to learn today during my video, please like and subscribe. Like I said, I don't monetize, so your likes and your subscriptions are pretty much the only reason that I'm doing this, to kind of share valuable information with you. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say. DreamLook AI, try it out. I recommend it. And I will have more to tell you in another video soon. Like and subscribe for more. I'll see you soon, kids. Bye.